I play this character named Rory, and Rory's Rory Calhoun, and he's basically a guy who is a kind of a rule follower, and he sands floors for a living, and he's got a kind of in his backstory, he's got a problematic relationship with his son, and really no relationship with an ex-wife. And when we kind of find him at the beginning of the movie, he's pretty down. He doesn't kind of present as particularly depressed, but his mind is kind of going to some pretty dark places, and he's kind of starting to think about what the point of all this is. And it's in that context that he kind of makes this rash, kind of radical decision to participate in a crime for the first time in his life. And so that's how he kind of enters into this world. So he kind of brings the audience into this world of kind of petty criminals in Boston. And the three kind of main characters are Casey's character, this guy Cobby, who's a career kind of criminal, but really he's just this guy who's looking for a friend, and he really wants to belong, and he's kind of up for anything. And then my character Rory, who's doing this, who's committing a crime for the first time, and then my psychiatrist, who Hong Chow plays, who kind of gets swept up in this, and basically, for reasons of her own, decides to kind of participate in our escape, basically in an attempt to do therapy, and convince me to turn myself in. And so she kind of comes along in an attempt to try to resolve everything without me getting hurt or anybody getting hurt. And so those are kind of your three characters who kind of get thrown together and end up together. Nothing goes the way that they were kind of told it should go. Kind of everything goes wrong right from the outset. They think they're walking into a restaurant where there'll be a couple people working in the kitchen, and they're going to zip tie them, and they walk in, and there's 40 people, and the event that was supposed to be over hours ago is still going because it's an election event, and the mayor hasn't conceded the election, and so there's people everywhere in this building, and so they're kind of forced to improvise, but they don't really know what they're doing, and so things kind of spiral from there. The tone, that was what kind of jumped off the page, and it's very, very difficult to get tone like that right, and that was why Doug was really the only person we thought of to do it. He is so good at that and has done it so many times, and it's really almost like kind of creating a world, like an entire world of its own. And I remember going back to like the mood board he showed me for The Bourne Identity, where I went, oh, and like you go and look at the final film, and I could think back to that mood board and go, yeah, that's what that was. It was all kind of there, and but to do it's so difficult because it's such like attention to detail, and he's really, what I love about him as a director is that he's allergic to tropes. And it's really easy to fall into those when you're doing a movie like this that's a little higher concept, and it's an action comedy, and it's very easy to kind of fall into these things that have been done before, you've seen before, and that's what he really is, just resists at a kind of at a cellular level. So he's always pushing back. What makes this more fun? Well, we really want it to be a fun, entertaining movie. So what makes it more fun? What's something that's unique that we haven't seen before? And that's what I think kind of, if you look at his body of work, it's always really surprising what happens in his movies. The tone is always very unique and you go like, I haven't seen anything like that before, whether it's Go or The Bourne Identity or Edge of Tomorrow or Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's always really interesting and unique. It still feels somehow grounded in reality, as kind of crazy as things can get, and that's really the trick. Like, how do you do a movie about something serious, but don't make it feel serious, make it really fun? Well, Hong's amazing. I mean, I've worked with her before. I love her. She's one of my favorite actresses, and it's a very difficult role because you have to believe that she's a psychiatrist, a credible, and that she's good at her job, and you also have to believe that she gets in the car like right before a high-speed chase. It's really, and when she took the part, and I was like, this is really, This is the crux of the movie, basically, is you getting in the car. We have to, we have to kind of earn that and believe that. And so it requires like somebody who can kind of convince you of anything. So it requires kind of a great actress. So we were lucky to get her. It should be a lot of fun, and there should be some real memorable jokes and characters, and it should just be a really entertaining, good time, and maybe it sneaks up on you at the end.
The beginning of the movie, you've got Michael Stuhlbarg, who is he has an idea for a crime, which is to rob the mayor on election night, because he's going to be throwing this huge party. And there'll be a lot of people there paying the mayor off to keep their contracts around the city. So we establish this mayor character as being corrupt, running a long-time corrupt operation of corruption and bribe and taking bribes and selling contracts and so forth. And Michael Stuhlbarg is hoping to steal all of that money on election night, but he can't find anybody to do this job. So he's got Jack Harlow's character, who promises to be able to find a couple people to pull this off. But no one wants to take this job, and he has to really kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel, where he finds me and Matt. And we were willing to do the job because, in part, we don't really know any better, or we don't really care. Jacob Milne is my character's name, called Cobby, and he's had a life of feeling, been a foster kid, and just has up until we meet him, we feel like he has been experienced nothing but abandonment and betrayal, and has felt sort of maligned and misunderstood and left behind and did time for someone else, and he's had a rough life. And he is nothing at all like Matt's character, who also we're meeting sort of at the rock bottom. These guys have nothing in common except that they're both at a kind of dead end in their life. Our story is the story of these two guys sort of being stuck together. At first, that part was a smaller part of a guy who really didn't ever speak. But Matt has, when he said, I'd love to do this movie with you, it was like, you're just not going to leave it that way. Matt's got 30 years of experience creating great parts and being fantastic in movies. And so then, it was sort of tailored to him and what he wanted to do. And whereas I play someone who's led a life of in and out of crime, and Matt plays someone who's sort of had all other kinds of bad things happen to him and made mistakes and things, but he's never been a criminal. And so he's on this job for it's sort of the first time he's ever committed a crime, really. So they're a funny pairing. For whatever reason in my career, I've ended up playing a lot of dramas, tragedies, characters who have either had terrible things happen to them or their lives just haven't gone very well. And I've always wanted to do something that was more lighthearted and just comedic. And I love Midnight Run. I've seen that movie 20,000 times. I love Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. I love, and it's just, I haven't gotten to do that. So I thought, if I'm going to sit down and work on a script, I'm going to make it like that. And that's what we did. And I think that the tone is meant to live somewhere in there, but a movie is made by 300 people and they all contribute something, especially the director. So Doug came in. Doug has made so many great movies that are left or right of that exact same thing that I'm describing. They're really funny. He likes friendships. I remember being a teenager and watching Swingers and going back to the theater the next day to see it again because it was just so much fun. And so he seemed like the perfect person for it. And I asked Matt, Matt Gonvalde, I said, do you think Doug Lyman would do this? He was like, well, you know him from Portland. And he said, I can ask him. And Doug came in and said yes, and so it just became this kind of like perfect scenario and this dream job. The humor in the script has definitely evolved like over the course of the making of it. It never ended. Sort of, it's development, and even on the set when you're there shooting, and Doug has an idea and Matt has an idea and I have an idea, and then it just keeps cooking until they call, they say they're moving on. I hope it comes off as the kind of humor that I've seen in movies that have been favorite movies of mine. I just didn't get to do that much. Comedies, buddy comedies, friendship movies, the kind of stuff that it would have been hard, I think, to replicate with someone who I just met, wasn't really comfortable with, didn't have a shared sort of sense of humor. And so I hope that Matt, knowing each other for so long, sort of creates a foundation where that can work. I think it should be a lot of fun. I hope that it's funny and fun, and it's entertaining. It's the kind of movie that you can watch over and over again. When we talk about like how much is too much in a scene, are we pushing the comedy or not enough? We usually come back to like, we want to make something that people watch over and over again through the years. Of course, we'll be lucky if people just, go the first time, but we aim to have it be something that people are going to want to return to.
I had never had the opportunity to work on this type of movie, this genre of action comedy, and I was very happy to be reunited with Matt Damon again. We worked together on Downsizing and had a great time. So I was just really looking forward to doing something that I hadn't done before, and I'm a fan of Doug Liman, all of his movies. They're muscular in a certain way, but they're also really thoughtful, and they feel a little lived in. Whenever I describe the movie to people, I say that it's an action heist comedy, but I think when I say that, most people think about Ocean's 11 or something like that, and this is not that type of action heist comedy. It's a little bit, I think Doug Liman is trying to make it feel very grounded. He's somehow able to bring that same energy that he had when he was first starting off as a filmmaker into these much bigger budget movies, where he still wants it to feel real from moment to moment. We always stop and talk about, is this logical? Does this make emotional sense? Would these characters actually say or do these things? So even though the situation might be really heightened and absurd, there are always moments in life where people say really ridiculous things in a high stakes situation, a highly emotional situation. So it's really fun to get to do that. We do little line tweaks here and there, just depending on the scene and how everybody's feeling about it. So it feels really collaborative and organic, which I was not expecting when I signed on to do this project. It's been really, really interesting and fulfilling in that way. We have an amazing cast led by Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, but a lot of the supporting characters are played by really wonderful actors like Michael Stolberg, Alfred Molina, Paul Walter Hauser, who's a little bit younger, and then we also have Jack Harlow, who's not known as an actor primarily, but he's starting to do more acting work, and that's exciting to have that kind of energy on set. Yes, and Ving Rhames and Andre DeShields, who's a theater Broadway legend. Ron Perlman is amazing, and Toby Jones, also an amazing character actor who's done so much fabulous work. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches to be a part of this ensemble.
I always sort of viewed Instigators as, the Bad News Bears of a heist movie. Instigators will be in a unique lane because it's a heist movie, but it's a heist movie where it's not even like the B team, it's like the E team or the F team doing the heist. I met with Hong and thought she was just so smart and funny and charming, and most of all, given that Matt and Casey were gonna go off script quite a bit, that she could keep up with them. There's a snarky tone, especially her character's relationship with Casey's character, and Casey's like a savant or something when it comes to like his ability to just start with the script and then just go off on a tangent, and he's so compelling to watch. In a way, it sometimes it can make me a little bit lazy as a filmmaker, because there's a scene where they're sneaking into the restaurant where they're going to rob the mayor, and the boat's sinking. And I was like, I'm not even going to bother scripting this. I'm going to put Matt and Casey and Jack Harlow in a boat and start it sinking. And Casey will ad-lib funny, and Matt will ad-lib funny, and Jack will react to it, and I'll have a great scene. I don't need to, the only thing I need to do to prep for that scene is arrange for the boat to sink. And it was like that on almost any day I could. If I could come up with an outrageous scenario and put Matt and Casey and Hong into that scenario, we did have a script, but I could be like, okay, now let's forget about what's in the script and just let's play the situation. Alfred Molina came in to play, he and Michael Stuhlbarg play this previous generation of criminals who are the masterminds of this heist. And on the second day of the shoot, I found myself shooting a scene with Matt and Casey, Jack Harlow, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Alfred Molina. And I'm looking at the script, and Alfred Molina has, it's like a 7-page scene. Alfred has one line. And I'm like, oh my God, he's like, I've dreamt my whole career of working with Alfred Molina. I can't believe. Other scenes he had more lines, but I'm like, I can't believe in this scene he's basically an extra. And then Alfred says, I'm looking at this scene, and I don't think it makes sense for me to say that line. I think Jack should say that. It's not really within my character. So now I'm like, he has no lines. And the reality is that he basically steals the scene. I just think audiences are going to love every character and every scene in Instigators. I mean, it was just one of those movies where, like, I was shooting a scene and my producer Kevin Walsh came over and he was like, can you do another take? And I was like, I'm feeling pretty good about it. He goes, yeah, no, I just want to watch it again. I was like, don't even give them any other notes. Like, have them just, I was like, well, you could just watch playback of what we just did. Like, I'm not going to make them go through it again just so you can watch the scene again. But that is something that I'm accusing him of that. But at other points I found myself saying, let's do it again, just because the writing was so smart, and especially Matt and Casey are just, to get both of them in the same movie and then surrounded by this insane supporting cast, there wasn't a weak link.
He's a kind of low-level sort of gangster, but he kind of works for Mr. Besseguy, played by Michael Stuhlbarg. He's a grunt. He kind of like does what he's told. He's, he works in a bakery, and that's the cover, that's the front. He's a bit like a kind of criminal butler. He sort of does his job and works under instructions. He doesn't really think very originally for himself. He's very much in thrall of Mr. Besseguy. There's a kind of relationship between them where Besseguy is all energy and I'm a little bit slower, a little bit more on the back foot. I need to be encouraged. I need to be told what to do. He's not the sort of person that takes any kind of initiative. So he's very much in the service of this particular caper. Been lovely working with Doug. He's I'd never worked with him before, and I think I said something like, I'll come and happily lurk in a doorway, and he kind of took me at my word. So we've had a couple of scenes where I'm just like lurking in doorways. He feels like a very instinctive director. Like, he comes, impeccably prepared, but there's always that lovely moment of he's willing to kind of like play with it a little bit, to let it go somewhere else. If there's a moment that's kind of feels inspired, or if there's a kind of energy that seems to be going somewhere interesting, he's very happy to let it develop. And that's very, it's very collaborative, and it kind of gives you a kind of freedom, But at the same time, he does serve the text. He serves the story.
I play May Michelli. He's larger than life. He has overwhelmingly hedonistic tastes and appetites. He understands how the games are played, and he likes making the rules. Well, the script is phenomenally well conceived and well executed. I mean, it's a comedy, which I read a lot of comedies, but a lot of them just aren't funny. This one is, and not only is it funny, but it's really smart, and it's filled with East Coast character types, like almost caricatures, but they're not, because they're people that you've never quite met before. That's how smart the writing is. Situationally, it's just whacked out, completely whacked out, and really fun to follow. Our two leads, the character that Matt plays and the character that Casey plays, couldn't be more different. But they're also brought together by the fact that they're victims of a society that doesn't play fair and kind of like leaves a lot of people behind. So it leaves you wanting to like figure out how to not only take care of yourself, but your loved ones and everything around you, and so they're both coming at it to kind of get a W in a lifetime of else. That's the bond that they have together. But they are two people who process life completely differently, have totally different values, and one thing leads to another. But the way it's executed, I can't even describe. When you read a script that is as the pitch of the dialogue and the exchanges is like, oh yeah, this is actually really, really clever, and it's actually people I want to hang out with and have a beer with. I feel like I'm on a dream job here. Not only is it the script great, but the people who are playing all these characters. I mean, along with Matt and Casey, you got Ving Rhames and Alfred Molina and Michael and Hong Zhao and Paul Walter Hauser. My God, it's like an embarrassment of the great character actors that I long to be around, and here we are all together. Most directors they just direct traffic, and they don't have, and so you have to really, really learn how to bring everything you need to give the performance, because you're probably not going to get any real help along the way. Doug is one of those exceptions where he is constantly giving you idiosyncrasies that are very character-driven that will put a whole new set of colors onto the palette, onto the canvas, that you hadn't thought of before. And that is like, you really, really, I come to work every day knowing I better be on my A game, because this guy's gonna notice everything, and he's gonna ask things of me that I really have to dig down deep to give him. And that's a phenomenal. And it's also an exception to the rule.
I did Matt Damon's first project with him called Rising Sun 33 years ago. So now to see him for the first time in 33 years and get to work with him, that was probably the main reason why I wanted to do it. Because when I first read the script, there's a lot of little things I didn't quite understand. I had to read it a couple of times to really get the gist of it. So, but it was really Matt Damon was the reason why I wanted to do it. And then I spoke to Tom Cruise. He said he had worked with the director on the movie American Made. And I told Tom, I said, Tom, I really like that film. This is, like a year ago. And so those two reasons were why I chose to do it. Talking to the director about Toomey, he said Toomey is like a superhero. He kind of does what he wants to do. And he has that kind of clout now after years, with the police force and being a detective. So that was he gave me this kind of bigger than life image of Toomey. So, so after talking to him about it and then getting to, mess with the character some, that was kind of like him saying he was a superhero, like even the truck I drive or whatever, that, huge monstrosity thing. So it was almost like, okay, I kind of got a grip on the character. He's you could say detective / cop, or you could say specialized cop, etc. But basically he's like a detective who has carte blanche over, he has the right to do what he wants to do.
When I had the script sent to me, I was immediately excited because they said it was an East Coast, crime story, and Ben and Casey and Matt are involved, and Doug Liman's directing. I was just like, I almost don't need to read the script. I just want to say yes and do this. But I read it and was pleasantly surprised at how funny it was and how nuanced it was. It really is. It's not just about the state of Massachusetts or the city of Boston. It's like, it really is like neighborhood specific as far as vernacular and life experience and the dreams of those specific types of people in that place. I really got a kick out of it. I only had the one scene with Matt Damon playing the character Rory and Casey playing Cobby. The time I spent with them, though, it was really fun to see them work off each other. Clearly, Casey's character, Cobby, is the mouth, and Rory is kind of the, I'll do what you tell me to do. Very, very simple. Matt's an attractive guy, so it's very interesting to see that dichotomy of anytime an classically attractive person plays someone kind of dumbed down, it's fun. Casey is a really good actor. I got kind of a fun moment with him where he kind of turns the tables on my character and kind of holds me up after I'm holding him up. And that was really fun to do. Casey's such a good actor. You just got to look in his eyes and he puts you in that place and time. You could be in Boston, you could be on Mars. If you're with him, you're saying the words and you're looking him in the eyes, it's very easy to act. It's cool working with people I've been a fan of for a long time. Doug Liman, I think, is one of the most, reliable directors in Hollywood. I love his work. I loved American Made and Swingers and just everything across the board. And I think Casey and Matt, anytime we get to see that kind of group of guys come back together and tell a story, it's pretty special. I also think they're having fun. These guys are known for such weighty material. If you think of Manchester by the Sea or Ben and Matt doing The Last Duel for Ridley Scott, these are heavy, heavy things. And this is sort of a fun movie where we get to leave our brains at home a little bit and throw back some popcorn and just have a good time. I think you have a lot to look forward to. You got action, you got heart, you got humor, you got a healthy amount of violence, you got Boston accents, that's always good. And more than anything, I think it's sort of a dual-gendered 4-quadrant, 5-quadrant type of movie. Everybody can find something to enjoy in The Instigators.
I like how earnest Doug is. Like, when Doug wants something, he just says it. He doesn't try to massage you or say it in a certain way to manipulate the situation. He just comes out and says what he likes, and when he doesn't like something, he says it. So you always know where you stand, which I always admire in a person.
Matt Damon plays Rory, and Casey Affleck plays Cobby. Rory sands floors for a living. He used to be a Marine, and he's tried to, walk the straight and narrow, and apparently things got messed up in his relationships. He's messed up his home life, and so he needs this money badly, a very set amount of money, to, in his mind, make things better. He gets lugged in by Scalvo to do this, what's supposed to be a simple job. And the other knucklehead he brings into the thing is Casey's character, Cobby, who apparently some years earlier did some time that he blames on Bessaguy, Scalvo, and a group of people who arranged a crime several years ago that Cobby's brother participated in. Cobby's brother gets hooked on drugs, gets caught, and Cobby decides to do the time for his brother. And when he comes out of prison, or while he's in prison, his brother dies. So in Cobby's mind, dies from an overdose. In Cobby's mind, where he is in his life is, I imagine, just trying to recover from his time in prison, trying to make some money in whatever way he can. And he doesn't have that many prospects, so when Scalvo gets in touch with him over the phone to say, look, I got this gig out of nowhere, can you come do this? He leaps at the chance without pretty much thinking very much. And when he comes in to hear about the deal, Bessaguy gets an idea about what a motor mouth this guy is and how he can't keep his mouth shut, and tension builds between them, but he still thinks that these guys, even though they're amateurs, at least in my mind, can make this job work. It's a wonderful tone and it's unique to the piece, and I think it kind of is an homage to several different kinds of movies all in one. It's the buddy comedy, it's the heist movie, it is a farce of sorts. But at the same time, Doug was really keen on having all of us grounded in a truth and a reality. And that's been an interesting balance to try to find, because it comes and goes. And when I read it on the page initially, I was laughing all over the place just because of the wonderful rhythms they found in the language. And it's the silliness that drew me to it. I think the combination of all of the elements of an action film combined with a buddy comedy, combined with really heartfelt sentiments about these guys who are kind of at the end of their ropes. I'm really wonderful. It's a wonderful challenge for all of us. I hope people love it, and go along for the ride, which is what it's meant to be, and that there'll be some surprises there, which will be lovely, and hopefully people will enjoy the whole adventure.